Imagine this. It's mid-morning and you're already drowning. Your phone has buzzed 8 times in the last 10 minutes. Emails, messages, calendar reminders stacking up like urgent debts. You open your laptop to tackle the one important task on your list, but within seconds, your mind is racing ahead to the meeting that might go wrong, replaying yesterday's awkward conversation, worrying about the reply you haven't received yet. The words on the screen blur. Focus slips away like water through your fingers. By noon, you're exhausted, not from physical effort, but from the sheer mental fragmentation. This isn't rare anymore. It's ordinary. We call it stress, but really, it's something more precise. The quiet theft of our attention, moment by moment, until the day feels like it happened to us rather than the other way around. Most of us accept this as the price of modern life. We tell ourselves we'll get better at multitasking, or that we'll catch up tomorrow. But deep down, we sense something is broken. Not in the world outside, but in how we meet it. The ancient Stoics would look at this scene with calm recognition. They lived in times of emperors, plagues, and exile, yet they spoke of an inner tranquility that no external storm could reach. Their insight cut straight to the heart of our problem. It is not the events themselves that shatter our focus, it is the judgments we place on them. Epictetus put it plainly. People are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Stress, then, is not caused by the notification, the deadline, or the criticism. It arises from our untrained mind rushing to label them as threats, failures, or personal attacks. When we do that, attention fractures, because part of the mind is always defending, predicting, regretting. The Stoics offered a different path, not the elimination of pressure, but the training of perception, so that pressure no longer owns us. Today, we are going to walk through 5 Stoic practices that directly address this loss of focus. These aren't feel-good techniques or productivity hacks. They are deliberate ways of reshaping how you see and respond to the world. Small, repeatable shifts that gradually turn you from someone who is carried away by stress into someone who remains steady and present no matter what arrives. The beauty of these practices is how they build on one another. The first lays the foundation by drawing a clear line between what you can control and what you cannot. The second prepares you in advance so surprises lose their power to derail you. The third strengthens your will through chosen discomfort so ordinary stress no longer overwhelms. The fourth brings you back again and again to this exact moment. And the fifth completes the circle by teaching you to embrace whatever comes, not with resignation, but with a quiet willingness that frees your entire attention. Even if you begin with only one of them today, something important starts to change. You begin to practice philosophy not as abstract reading, but as daily training, the way the Stoics themselves lived it. Let's begin where almost every loss of focus starts, with the things we cannot control. Picture a typical workday. You have prepared carefully for an important presentation. You rehearsed, refined the slides, anticipated questions. Then the meeting runs late, the projector fails, a senior colleague interrupts with sharp criticism in front of everyone. In that moment, your chest tightens, your thoughts scatter, half defending yourself, half imagining the damage to your reputation, half already rewriting the story you'll tell later. Your mind is no longer in the room. It's everywhere else. Epictetus would gently interrupt this spiral. In his Enchiridion, he draws the most fundamental distinction in Stoic thought. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Up to us are our judgments, our intentions, our deliberate efforts. Not up to us are outcomes, or the people's opinions, the weather of circumstance. When we pour mental energy into the second category, when we treat a colleague's reaction or a technical glitch as something we should have prevented, we create unnecessary suffering and lose the very focus we need to respond well. The practical shift is simple but profound. The next time stress rises, pause just for 3 or 4 seconds and ask, what part of this is truly up to me right now? Almost always, the answer narrows quickly. My next sentence, my tone of voice, my willingness to listen, my decision to keep working with care.
Everything else, the delayed start, the harsh comment, the eventual evaluation, falls outside that circle. By consciously placing your attention only on what is within your power, you reclaim the mental space that was leaking away. The panic subsides, not because the situation improves, but because you stopped fighting ghosts. You become present again, able to act with clarity instead of reacting in fragments. The single distinction, practiced consistently, begins to quiet the background noise in the mind. But preparation can take us even further. Seneca advised something that sounds almost counterintuitive at first. Every morning and evening, deliberately imagine things going wrong. He called it premeditationem malorum, the premeditation of evils. Not to dwell in fear, but to rob future troubles of their surprise. When we pretend difficulties will never arrive, any setback feels like a personal betrayal. The mind reels, attention collapses under the sudden weight. Consider the night before a difficult conversation or a high-stakes deadline. Most of us avoid thinking about what could go badly. We distract ourselves with scrolling or entertainment. Then, when something does go off track, a tough question, an unexpected objection, a delay, the unprepared mind floods with adrenaline. Procrastination follows. Focus evaporates.
Seneca suggests the opposite. Sit quietly for 5 minutes and calmly picture the worst plausible outcomes. The client says no. The meeting is canceled. The feedback is blunt. See it clearly. Feel the initial sting. Then remind yourself, these are possibilities, not catastrophes. They are part of the human condition. By rehearsing them in advance with detachment, you loosen their emotional grip. When the real moment arrives, it feels familiar rather than shocking. Your attention stays anchored instead of scattering in defense. People who practice this regularly describe a curious lightness. The day still brings difficulties, but they no longer arrive as emergencies. The mind remains available for the work that matters. Yet, even with control sorted and setbacks previewed, we sometimes falter because our will has grown soft from constant comfort. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that comfort can be a subtle enemy. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, not extreme asceticism, but small, intentional choices to forgo ease. Sleeping on a hard surface, walking instead of writing, eating plain food, exposing themselves to cold. The purpose was never punishment, it was training. By choosing small difficulties when you don't have to, you build the inner strength to meet large ones without crumbling. In our world, this looks modest, but powerful. Turn the shower cold for the last 30 seconds. Commit to one focused work block without checking your phone. Skip the evening snack you reach for automatically. Each time you feel the urge to escape discomfort and choose instead to stay with it, calmly, without drama, you strengthen the muscle of attention. Think of the times distraction wins. The notification pulls you away because scrolling feels easier than writing the next paragraph. You open social media because deep work feels too exposing. Voluntary discomfort reverses that pattern. You learn to sit with resistance instead of running from it. Over weeks, the mind stops treating ordinary effort as unbearable. Stress that once shattered focus now becomes just another sensation you can observe and move through. This discipline naturally leads to the next layer, learning to remain where you actually are. Epictetus spoke of prosoche, watchfulness, attentive awareness. Marcus Aurelius returned to it again and again in his private notes. Do not let your mind be pulled away. Concentrate wholly on what you are doing. The Stoics understood that the present moment is the only place life actually happens, yet most stress is manufactured outside it. Regrets about yesterday, anxiety about tomorrow. When the mind lives there, the attention needed here collapses. You recognize this pattern the moment it begins.
You're typing an email, and suddenly you're mentally drafting a response to a criticism that hasn't even arrived yet. Or you're listening to someone speak, and your thoughts drift to your to-do list. In both cases, the present task loses depth, performance suffers. You recognize this pattern the moment it begins. You're typing an email, and suddenly you're mentally drafting a response to a criticism that hasn't even arrived yet. Or you're listening to someone speak, and your thoughts drift to your to-do list. In both cases, the present task loses depth, performance suffers.
The shift is gentle but deliberate. When you catch the mind wandering, name it without judgment. This is a future thought, or this is yesterday again. Then return to the impression right in front of you, the sentence you're writing, the words being spoken, the breath moving in and out. Many find it helpful to pair this with a brief pause, 3 slow breaths while feeling the feet on the floor, the chair beneath you. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet recentering. With repetition, this becomes almost automatic. The mind learns that it is allowed to return. Distractions lose their pull because you no longer follow them down long corridors of worry. Focus deepens not through force, but through repeated patient redirection to what is real right now. And yet there is one final step that binds everything together and makes the practice almost unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. He also said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." Later thinkers would call this Amor Fati, love of fate. It is not passive acceptance. It is an active embrace of reality, exactly as it unfolds, seeing every obstacle, interruption, and discomfort as the very material needed for your growth. Most of us do the opposite. When the internet drops during an urgent task, when a child interrupts focus time, when illness cancels plans, we resist. That resistance creates inner friction. Part of the mind fights what is, while another part tries to work. Attention splits. Nothing moves forward cleanly. The Stoic turn is radical in its simplicity. When the unwanted arrives, pause and say inwardly, "This is what happened, and it is what I needed to face." Or echoing Nietzsche's later phrasing of the same ancient insight, not merely to bear what is necessary, but to love it. The moment you stop arguing with reality, the friction dissolves. The interruption is no longer an enemy. It becomes part of the path. Your full attention returns to the next right action. Taken together, these 5 practices form a complete arc. You begin by sorting what is yours to control so you stop wasting energy on phantoms. You prepare the mind for difficulty so it no longer panics. You train the will through small acts of courage so stress loses its terror. You anchor awareness in the present so rumination cannot steal you away. And finally, you learn to love whatever arrives so resistance itself disappears. The result is not a life without pressure. Pressure will always exist. The result is a mind that no longer shatters under it. Stress becomes instead a signal, a reminder to apply one of these tools. Over time, you stop reacting as a victim of circumstance and begin living as a philosopher in the original sense, someone who tends their own soul with steady, daily care. Marcus Aurelius described the mind as an inner citadel, walls of reason and calm that no external force can breach. The storms still rage outside, deadlines, opinions, uncertainty, but inside there is quiet. Focus returns not because the world has changed, but because you have. You do not need to master all 5 practices at once. Choose one.
Perhaps the dichotomy of control feels most urgent today, or perhaps the morning premeditation offers the relief you've been seeking. Start there. Practice it gently, consistently, the way you would tend a small flame. Day by day, the flame grows steadier. If any of this resonates, take a moment now to reflect. Which of these ideas speaks most directly to where your focus slips away? Where in your day do you most often lose yourself to stress? I'd be grateful if you'd share your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and often the conversations there become their own small lessons for everyone watching. If you'd like to explore more of this ancient practical wisdom applied to modern life, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. New reflections arrive regularly. Until next time, begin where you are. The present moment is enough.